So the show is John Porter, 5 years time. That's me, obviously. It'd be a bit stupid if I gave it a different name. The inspiration for the show is basically that interview question that everyone gets, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, I've had a particular answer for that in most interviews I came to. If you've seen me before, you'll know what it is. If you haven't seen me before, come to the show, but it only gets revealed at the end, so you have to be right to the very end. Basically, it's just because by the time I'm done with this show, I'm also taking it to Edinburgh Festival in August. By the time I'm done with all of that, I will have done about 5 years in stand-up. So the inspiration for the show was, where was I in 2012? Where did I expect to be, both as a person and probably a comedian when I first started? Am I anywhere near those things? The answer I can tell you already is no, but the reasons why are explained in the show. Should be quite an entertaining night, I'm looking forward to it. Just going to talk a little bit about my life. I'm not just lazy being sat down, I have a disability, so there's a strong element of that in the show. There's a few stories about things that happened to me in the last 5 years. One of the reasons for that is when I started doing comedy, I was very much writing jokes and other things that you think are funny. But once you start doing things like stand-up, you realise how funny your life is while you're doing it. So now most of my stuff is anecdotal. There's stories about Eastern European countries in there, there's stories about my dad breaking his ankle in there. That does kind of ruin the story, but the reason why is quite funny. There's all kinds of things I'm going to talk about. There's a big ending to it as well, which I'm very nervous about. So hopefully everyone stays to the end and we can see what people think of that. There's more than meets the eye, I think, is kind of what I'm going for. You know, you see me, I think every person makes a judgment based on what they see, but my life has been very different to that in a lot of respects, so we're going to address that, we're going to see how that goes. That's pretty much it, I think, really. Just looking forward to doing it, looking forward to talking over everything that's happened to me. I hope most of it's funny. I'm pretty sure most of it is because I experienced it. So it's a free show, you know, on a Friday night. Get a chance to have a drink, you know, come out, watch me, have a few laughs, and then we'll all go out afterwards, because I certainly will be afterwards. So you might as well join me, and hopefully an audience do too. So I look forward to it.
So you've been doing stand-up for 5 years. How's it been going down?
It's probably took off in the last maybe year and a half. It's a strange thing, really. Comedy is very, very difficult. It's one of those arts that I think a lot of people see and think is really simple. And to some extent it is, because you only have to say things that are funny, but what's funny to you isn't necessarily funny to other people. I found it quite difficult because there's a certain expectation that you should be at certain levels by certain times in stand-up, and I've kind of thrown that away in the last year and a half. I'm not worried about it, just enjoy yourself, you know. I think it's been going down really well. I've had some of my best experiences in the last year, last year and a half really, from doing stand-up. They're all in the show, but one of them that I will spoil in this interview was getting a standing ovation off 2,000 people, and that's not an experience you can easily replicate off stage. So I think that's why they say comedy's the biggest drug, you know, it's hard to shake off. And yeah, it's been going really well. Hopefully it continues going well. This show is kind of part of that. I have done it once before. I did it in February in Bolton, at Bolton Little Theatre. Very well received. We had a sellout. Admittedly, it was a smallish venue, but still a sellout's a sellout, and that's what you put on the posters. You know, and yeah, in general, I'm just trying to enjoy myself. I don't concern myself with where it's going to get me. If it gets me somewhere, it will do, you know.
Have you found that stand-up comedy's been very accessible? Because you were saying that obviously you've got a disability. Has it been accessible to you? Are all venues accessible?
It's certainly more accessible than I probably thought it was in my head before I started. I think there was always something in the back of my head that I want to do stand-up, I want to make people laugh. It was always something I had a dream of doing, but your disability, and again, this kind of crosses over with the show. In your mind, your disability holds you back, and sometimes it is literally just in your mind. It's not, you know, people are out there to help you, and I think that's what I've found with comedy, is that it is accessible. You just have to ask the right questions to the right people at the right time. Most venues now are pretty good. You do the odd old style venue, sort of like almost like the older theatres in a way that are still built to like 50s, 60s type stuff, and you struggle a bit then. But you find ways around everything. That's one thing that I do talk about, is that you find a way to do everything you want to do. So yeah, I think it's accessible, but I've also become more accessible myself, I think, in some respects.
What do you plan to do in the future? You said about Edinburgh. What are you going to do after that?
The plan then, I think, is just to keep gigging as much as I can. I try and gig, quite a lot really, as much as I can. I have a plan for another show for next year. This isn't one of those where I'm going to keep wringing everything I can out of it. I'm trying to do something different every year. I did a show last year, and I've kind of thrown a lot of that away and just gone, right, let's do something else. I think I'm trying to prevent myself becoming bored with my own stuff.
Yeah.
And also I have new ideas quite frequently. So like I want to do something different every time I have a sort of so-called big deal to promote. I want it to be different to what I was doing last time. So that will probably be the next thing. You might see me again next year.
Right. So what do your family think about the fact you're doing stand-up comedy?
It's a weird one really. I think my family are always supportive and always will be. The weird thing about one being disabled, and I'm also an only child, is that there's a protectiveness there, which I think they were kind of concerned about me when I first started. I think they were concerned if I didn't get the response I wanted, how would I react? Would I manage physically? All those kinds of things. So they worry, but I think they've gradually seen that it's caused me to grow up a lot, and it's done a lot for me, and as such, they're really behind it. I can't knock them. I've asked them to take me to places to do stand-up, and they've done it. You can't ask for any more than that from your family, really.